How you doing, Cora?
Pretty good, Jay.
These games have been
Thanks
good,
for asking.
It's really it's really fun to watch some of these cool different decks. It's not every day that you get to see that spiteful Prince Cthulhu
Get
Druid.
dumpstered by Q-Block.
I wasn't gonna say that. I wasn't gonna go that far. I was just saying, you know, maybe there was a universe where MC Tech took the Carnivorous Cube that had consumed a Void Lord.
There was. 20% of the time, that was the universe we're living in.
20% of the time, it happens all the time.
That's just
That's
math.
math. That's quick math.
All right, our final series of the day. It's going to be Cal Poly Slo taking on Everett. And we're going to be seeing some mutual Warlock bans here. So very different from the last series. This series, these teams are respecting the Warlock and saying nope. But then we have Mage, Priest, Paladin on both sides.
It might just be a flat out, straight up mirror match with Control Mage, Control Paladin, and either Control Spiteful or Interfire Priest. You never know. Typically with a Warlock ban, you're not really... Maybe you're still bringing Secret Mage, but a lot of times it is that N'Zoth Control Mage that we've seen be popularized by players like Tic Tac and Hot Meowth. And, you know, you never know. But it's going to be all the same classes, so I would imagine that they are going to be very similar deck lists. Now, the variations do include, there could be Dude Paladin, Murloc Paladin, OTK Paladin, or Control Paladin. With a Warlock ban, I would say there's a strong possibility for the more aggressive Paladins.
If there's anything that I know about collegiate Hearthstone teams, it's that they're unpredictable. They're going to bring what they want, and they're going to play what they want.
Spiteful Paladin. Got it.
Maybe it's going to work out. Cal Poly Slo, Chua Phineas, an agent, political science, and computer engineering. Bunch of smart dudes playing Hearthstone. I was a liberal arts major myself, so I cannot
I am a
relate.
science major currently.
Ooh.
Environmental studies. Yes, I want to protect and help the environment.
I did love environmental science. I took a couple classes of that. But no, I was a broadcast major with a music minor, so...
I mean, makes sense. Understandable why you're here. And for Everett, we have Basic Island, Orator, and Ache. Eek. Oh, that sounds like that looks like Eek, like what Twilight Acolyte says. Maybe they are playing some Twilight Acolyte decks. Computer science, music, and nursing, respectively. A little bit of diversity going on there.
Orator's my man.
Music with the music major.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of
And that looks like Orator right there, I
music
believe.
majors with a Reaper pop in the back. Oh yeah, I'm a fan.
So they must be aggro decks.
The
They've got the
lone-
Reaper pop in the background.
They're very edgy. The lone player from Everett. Unfortunately, sometimes the players have tests or clubs or whatever it may be, and the stream does not work with their schedules. So it is actually pretty often that you see not all three members of a team being present. Perhaps we'll see them come in throughout the course of the series. But for now, it's going to be a 3v1. And this is, I guess, a matter of personal preference. Jay, do you like playing with other people, or would you prefer to just play with yourself?
It honestly depends on the mood I'm in. A lot of times when you play with other people, whether it be you're grinding out ladder sessions together, you're playing in a team event, you're just kind of playing for fun, it lets you see lines of play that you might not necessarily have seen in the past. And, you know, that's something very important with Hearthstone. There's some lines of play that not everyone would take. There's some lines of play that are more optimal than others. And it's important to get maybe a collective hive mind together to see the most optimal plays. And that's when I like to play with a team. But, you know, sometimes other people can be distracting. Sometimes they just want to joke around, have fun. Don't get me wrong. I like to have fun, too. But sometimes you got to get serious, play some collegiate action. And I think Everett's getting serious and playing some collegiate action here. And
buckle down.
Buckle down and OTK the opponent. Because this is either Control or OTK Paladin. And now we see from Cal Poly's side, they're going to be playing a Secret Mage. Now, initially, it could have been some kind of Burn Mage. There have been some weird Freeze Mage lists running around that play double Arcane Intellect. Not typically. Secret Mage doesn't typically play Arcane Intellect in 2 for the reason that they have access to a Lunith, which is Arcane Intellect on steroids. It's just crazy good. And we see they're opting to go for a more draw-heavy version while banning out the Warlock, and that's very interesting to me. let's see how it pans out for them. And then we see from Everett's side, obviously, the Control Paladin I mentioning earlier. OTK Paladin typically does not play the Stonehill Defender, but it still could have OTK aspects of it. It could still be playing Burgly Bullies and Auction Master Beardo, because that combination is... you're not really losing much from the deck by putting those in. So it's going to be interesting to see if they have access to that. Now, in this matchup, I don't think that's going to come into play, but in other matchups, they may come into play.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And we saw the N'Zoth in the mulligan from Everett, so I'm expecting this to be a control form of Paladin where you're seeing Tyrion Fordring, Cairn Bloodhoof, maybe even Carnivorous Cube, depending on how cheeky you want to get. But
I don't think they get that cheeky.
No, that would be quite cheeky.
I think you're living in a dream world. You're still living in that world.
Living in a Cuban fantasy.
You're still living in that universe where MC Tech took that cube. And I'm going to need you to come back into this universe and live in the world where Everett is not playing Carnivorous Cube inside of their Control Paladin.
We don't know. Nah. Likely not, but I
have seen them playing Zola. They have played Zola the Gorgon just for the reason that they can copy one of their 4 horsemen. That way they don't have to use the 1-mana spell to get one. They can just play it from their hand and they only need 2 coins. Or they can just copy something like a Cairn Bloodhoof and get more value. Maybe even if N'Zoth lives, they copy N'Zoth and play it again. Again, these are really, really slow combos for this matchup.
Yeah.
But it's still a possibility.
I do think that I prefer this build of the deck over the strict OTK version, because the OTK is just a little bit too easy to play around, depending on what type of deck the opponent is playing. And it really only has that 1 win condition, whereas this control version is much more board-centric and does have the fringe scenarios where it can accomplish that OTK. But both decks accomplish very specific goals, and this matchup is not one that either of them would go the distance in. Instead, they're going to be trying to control the game from the early turns, keep the early minion damage away from their faces, clear up the board with the Rallying Blades, leverage the Beetles and Call to Arms for very valuable minions to just run Cal Poly out of resources, really. Hope they don't draw Elleneth, hope they can't burn you out. And then I would think that they'd probably be running a copy of Rag Lightlord. That's going to be your main source of heal later on.
Yeah, we can see Everett playing around that Explosive Ruins by playing the minion with higher health first. That way they technically didn't lose any health there. The Beetle gave them 3 armor. They only lost 3 from the Explosive Ruins. And that was just a good nod to Everett, making sure that they were playing that. There's no reason to play the Loot Hoarder first. Not only would you take more damage, but there's no other 2-drop you would want to draw into to play that turn. Maybe if there was a later turn that playing the Loot Hoarder first may have been more impactful to draw something, they could have considered it. But clean play from Everett so far, and Cal Poly's looking at a pretty slow hand, and they don't have the board. They're going to definitely want to play this Mana Worm this turn, but the question is, what do they want to play it with? Going into turn 5... Explosive Runes doesn't really hit that much. And then Arcane Intellect's good. It puts an extra tick on your Mana Worm. So I think it's going to go ahead and be the Arcane Intellect. But, I mean, this is just a really slow start from Cal Poly.
Well, Everett's just a... They're down to 22 life, which is more than manageable for Cal Poly. They definitely still want to find that Elleneth, which we've seen a lot of Secret Mage today. We have not actually seen an Elleneth in play for the Mage.
No, which is crazy, because every time I play against Secret Mage on ladder, they have the Eluneth.
100%.
I'm sure you too as well, Cora.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure everyone actually at home, when they have ever played against a Secret Mage, has had Eluneth on coin
Turn
or on
5.
6.
Yeah, without fail. That is just...
I think that's actually how Eluneth
fact.
works. I think that reads that in the card text. In the flavor of it, it says... if you're watching a stream, it won't come up, but in your games, it will come up.
Well, Everett's doing a nice job of just playing the cards that they've got. Nothing super tricky has honestly happened yet this game, and likely will continue not to, as this Control Paladin deck is fairly straightforward, fairly overt in what its overall goal is. Just to control the game, it's going to have the significant advantage in the late game. But the later the game goes for Cal Poly Slo, then the more burn they're able to build up. And the life gain for Everett is honestly not that good. You're looking at Rag Lightlord, the 2-plated Beetles, N'Zoth to bring back the Beetles, but it is rather limited. So if Cal Poly can find the necessary burn, then this should be very winnable for them.
And you see Cal Poly go for the explosive runes that turn instead of the counterspell, because most likely Everett's going to want to play a minion here. There's a lot of 6-drops that have been played inside of Everett's deck, like for instance the Skulking Geist. Maybe they play more taunt minions to try and stop some of the damage. I would like to have seen them consider that a little bit more, for the reason that Counterspell could have been better against a Spike-Raked Steed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that is one of the most important and influential cards played on turn 6 by almost any Paladin deck that's not really aggressive. So it's a little bit of a tough decision. I think the Explosive Runes kind of worked out here. Not really too well, because, you know, they still don't have a board. But, I mean, it just isn't looking good for Cal Poly.
Dude, the draws are so bad.
I
Three
mean,
secrets, no pressure on board, no Alunith.
They can do this here. They can get a counterspell down and ping the Beetle. That's cute.
I'm just so consistently underwhelmed by Secret Mage. And I don't know if this is just me, but it's not a deck that I enjoy playing because it feels very inconsistent to me, and I'm probably just crap at the deck. Like, I will admit it, I don't think that I have played enough of the deck to be able to correctly identify the spots where I need to fight for the board versus, you know, just burning face straight. But it seems like if you don't have a Lunith, then the games are just very, very difficult to win.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, sometimes you just get those curves where you go Mana Worm into Arcanologist into Kirantor, and they don't really have an answer for your early game, and the snowballing damage is what matters. Sometimes you just have a Lunith on 6, so it doesn't even matter what you have. But sometimes you do have hands like this where you have double counterspell Ice Block and not a single Kirantor in sight, and your opponent has Rallying Blade for the first couple of minions you played. It's something that a Secret Mage struggles with, and its inconsistency. But when it has the very fast start, or the Alunith on 6, it is one of the most explosive decks in the game. Because out of nowhere, it just steals wins from players.
You're just dead.
And one reason maybe to consider why Cal Poly's in this situation is you have to look at when it comes to deck building. You know, they chose to put 2 Arcane Intellects inside of their mage deck. Now, did that help with consistency? Did that harm with consistency? It's kind of hard to say. They had to go Mana Worm, Arcane Intellect, and it's interesting to think, well, what did they cut for the second Arcane Intellect that most lists have typically not ran? And now Cal Poly recognizing, look, we're never getting through this board again. It is time to just go face. And that is a very well-timed Rag Lightlord.
Picture perfect. Because now Cal Poly needs to throw 8 damage into Rag Lightlord, which, if this Sorcerer's Apprentice is killed, Firelands Frostbolt, they don't have enough mana for it.
I like the recognition here, not even trading into the Sorcerer's Apprentice to guarantee that heal on face. And, I mean, we could go back to last turn and say maybe there was some consideration for Cal Poly putting the Sorcerer's Apprentice into one of the minions to play around this exact scenario. Now, I don't think they should. I think they should have just left the Sorcerer's Apprentice on board, and maybe it soaks 2 damage. But, you know, that's something to consider. Well, what if they put the Sorcerer's Apprentice into this Dirty Rat or the Tar Creeper, and the Rag the Lightlord then healed that? Well, they're still at 16. Maybe they can go face, but they're actually forced to answer Rag the Lightlord with 8 burn damage when Rag the Lightlord healed 16.
Yep.
It's a lot of health.
Rag Lightlord has done its job and more in this matchup, and we're seeing
He was
Cal
working
Poly.
overtime.
Oh yeah, he's making his money.
He is really supporting his Rag family.
The Rag babies and his Rag wife.
Yeah.
Or Rag partner. We don't care.
I mean, his partner in crime got moved to Hall of Fame. Ever since then, the streets have been lonely.
They have.
The
Not
8
enough
health
Ragnaros.
life has been lonely, and there's a Lunith, but it's looking a little late, a Lunith. I love that a Lunith whispers to you every time you draw cards, but, you know.
It's like, don't worry, I'm here, Cal Poly.
Don't worry, Cal Poly only came 3 turns too late.
I missed my stop. The bus was late. It's fine, but I'm here. And
I
Cal
was
Poly,
too busy talking to Rag Light Lord back there. It was fine.
we were chatting. He's an old buddy. Cal Poly's running the Mirror Entity instead of Potion of Polymorph as well. If they're banning Warlock, Potion of Polymorph is going to lose a lot of effectiveness. Mirror Entity, I guess, is just
It definitely makes sense to run something else, especially if you're banning Warlock. What's the reason to run Potion of Polymorph? And I like that recognition from these players in their deck building phase. And sometimes, the deck building phase is one of the most important phases. If your deck is not built in the correct manner, sometimes that can just cost you games.
In Collegiate Hearthstone, you see a lot of ladder decks just translating right to Conquest format, and they're not taking into account bans. So you'll see Warlock bans and decks still running multiple copies of Spellbreaker when it's not necessary, like Paladins, for instance. So I do like that today we've seen what seems to be a lot of lineups that are crafted specifically for a tournament meta, specifically with the bans in mind.
That's probably because the further we go into this competition, the further we go into the Collegiate Championship, you're going to see the more refined, the more knowledgeable, the more practiced, the more veteran, the more experienced players start to play more and more against each other and start recognizing the ones that can catch on to the meta, the ones that understand the meta, the ones that breathe the meta, live the meta, are the meta, are going to be the ones that go further on in the tournament.
Are you the meta, Jay?
I wish. If I was the meta, I'd win everything.
I am not the meta. And Everett is also kind of not the meta here. This Control Paladin is certainly not nearly as popular as a Dude Paladin or a Murloc Paladin, but convincingly taking that win there, getting the job done. Granted, the Rag Light Lord on turn 8 was a key draw.
It was 16 extra health.
Without it, Cal Poly may have had the necessary damage to close out that game. They had the Ice Block in hand. They found the Alleneth. They had a lot of the burn, but Everett navigated that well. The choice to bring the Control Paladin in the first place is a smart one. So they're going to take game number 1. Cal Poly going to have to find a win with that Secret Mage, but hopefully they will be able to do so. We're actually going to go to a short break as I believe one of the teams is changing rooms. So they're going to get back into their accounts as quickly as possible, and we're going to be right back with game number 2. Don't go anywhere. Everett takes game number 1 up against Cal Poly Slo. They were actually playing a very fast deck in the form of the aggressive Secret Mage. We'll have to see if they can bring it back out, potentially get a win with it against one of Everett's other picks. We do have exactly mirrored classes here, but we have yet to see if the decks themselves are going to be the same. Hey.
You never know. They could be the same. They could be something different. We do see mirror classes, but there are different strategies when you go for the mirror classes. We haven't seen the Paladin come out from Cal Poly yet. That Paladin could be a Murloc Paladin. We did see it in the Secret Mage, that maybe they're going for a more aggressive strategy and banning off the Warlock, saying, you know what, we're going to bring these aggro decks and beat out other control decks. And we did see a control Paladin come out from Everett, so maybe their mage is a control mage. And so the priests, it's really hard to say. There's so many good priest lists that you kind of can just pick and choose whatever you're more comfortable with. So maybe they're more comfortable with Spiteful Priest, Inner Fire Priest. There could be maybe a Control Dragon Priest. We've seen those come up on the ladder a little bit. I mean, maybe there's a Raza Priest. I doubt it. Raza Priest has not existed since the nerf.
Could be Cthulhu Priest. Anything is possible.
There could be Cthulhu Priest. Y'all did see that last week.
It's Collegiate Hearthstone. They bring some wacky stuff. Our teams are getting ready for game number 2. But we've got a Twitter question. Before we get into that, this one comes to us from Yaglikov. What do you think was the best moment in the year of the Mammoth? Ooh, that is a
really good question.
Doozy of a question. Okay.
Oh, God.
What is?
I didn't have time to prepare this, Cora.
Crap, neither did I.
All right. I mean, I have my own personal best moments, of course.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they relate to me. My personal best moment was winning the winter playoffs for the year of the Mammoth. Because that was during the
2017 winter would technically have been the year of the Mammoth. Yes, because you competed at the Bahamas.
Yes.
Yes, so it was the year of the Mammoth.
So me personally, on a personal note, that was very important to me because it gave me all of these great opportunities in my life that I got to do, on top of let me meet all of these incredible and great people from the Blizzard team, from Hearthstone team, from competitive side. Yourself, Cora, it was great to finally get and hang out and meet with you. So that for me was a personal thing that just, I mean, I can't put into words how much that's done for me. So that for me would be my most influential moment for the year of the Mammoth, just because it relates so much to me.
Year of the Mammoth was a big year for me too. It was my first year. Graduated from college, where I actually was starting to pursue broadcast as potentially a career path. So I would have to say probably for me, my biggest year of the Mammoth moment would have been casting DreamHack Austin. I would think.
Really?
DreamHack was something that I wanted to be a part of for years now. Since I started watching Hearthstone, I'd been watching DreamHack events and saying, I just want to be there. I just want to be a fan there because the atmosphere is so incredible. And that was the first event that I went to that I got to meet anybody. That I got to meet any of my friends that I had been talking to in Hearthstone for years. You know, like Ray, for instance, or Shoop, who are, you know, good friends of ours in Hearthstone. I had never had a chance to meet any of them before, so getting a chance to cast was a dream. To make new friends, to meet old friends was fantastic. But overall, the year of the Mammoth, very grateful. It was a really, really good one for the both of us. As far as best year of the Mammoth moments in general, I don't know. Let us know what you guys think. Tweet out Team Tespa. Go on Facebook /Team Tespa. Yeah, I know that Hearthstone Esports and Play Hearthstone have been clipping a lot of really good streamer moments from the year of the Mammoth, and I've seen one from Kibler. I saw one from
the one where
Disguised
Kibler
Toast.
burned the Blood Reaver Gul'dan when it was a new card, and everyone was so excited for Warlock. They were trying to figure out what's the Warlock Death Knight, and then Kibler just goes and burns it away.
Yeah. I mean, there were some standout moments for sure. But yes, let us know what your standout moments for the year of the Mammoth were, and ask us some of your own questions. We're still going to be giving away those Dalaran Flame card backs for the rest of today, tomorrow, and going forward for the next 5 weeks of time. But Cal Poly versus Everest, game number 2. It's going to be Paladin versus Priest. And is this a hand buff Paladin from Cal Poly?
I was going to ask you what Doppelgangster was doing in Murloc Paladin, but then...
Jace, what is Doppelgangster doing in Murloc Paladin?
I was going to ask you that.
This has to be...
I am pretty sure Everett is on a full control lineup with Big Priest. I completely forgot Big Priest existed for just a moment. But
we named like 12 priests and forgot Big Priest.
Exactly. That was one of the 12 priest lists we forgot. So it looks like Everett is on the control plan. of...
What in the world?
I'm sorry, I was trying to...
All right, Big Priest, they play Barnes on 4. 2 Obsidian statues, Yasharaj, Lich King, stuff. They basically get some big stuff on the board, control the early game because you have a lot of removal, and then bring big stuff back with Lesser Diamond Spellstone and what's its face.
And now that you've explained
Servitude.
Big Priest, I will attempt to explain the other Paladin. This is a good card hand buff Paladin in which it plays double Call to Arms because Call to Arms is a broken card, and then it buffs things in its hand in order to... I don't know, but I'm excited to see what's up with this Paladin.
If I see Don Honcho, I'm going to lose my mind.
Oh, I want to see Don Honcho so bad.
I'm thinking there's got to be Grime Street Outfitter, Smuggler's
I want to see
Run.
Everett's face when the blue... Well, I guess Everett wouldn't react to a Bluegill Warrior.
I don't think Everett reacts to much.
But Everett, I hope Everett reacts to the Doppelgangster.
Oh, it's so weird.
And I really hope Dirty Rat never gets played.
Have you ever... Oh, Dirty Rat is never getting played. No.
Well, of course, Cal Poly knows the deck list. So
They do.
Cal Poly knows it's a Big Priest. And Cal Poly's probably looking at Dirty Rat saying, you will do nothing. You will do...
Have you ever seen a Paladin deck like this? Have you ever seen this Paladin deck?
Brian Kibler probably streamed this last week.
That wouldn't surprise me. Like every shaman we're seeing, Kibler, probably. But no, I don't know what's going on here. And that is rare that happens, but it's also really cool.
It is really cool. And you want to see decks like this succeed because they're just so unique. They're so whack. They do crazy things. And you just can't help but root for the Millhouse Mana Storm Call to Arms Doppelgangster Paladin.
We're not playing that card. No, we are not.
Is it that bad?
Right
What's
now?
the worst case scenario that Big Priest does? All right, they get
Shadow
free
Essence,
Shadow Essence.
Shadow Essence.
Wild
That's bad enough.
Pyromancer. What is this deck?
This is awesome.
Cal Poly went deep into the laboratory to discover this beautiful piece of mastery.
DD, get out of my laboratory. We're playing Millhouse Manistone.
The worst part about this is they want to call to arms, but the Wild Pyromancer is going to nullify the effect.
They've drawn 2 of their best call to arms targets in the Dirty Rat and the Millhouse Manastorm. And it just so happens that those 2 cards are not playable in this matchup from hand.
Okay, Millhouse Manastorm honestly probably isn't that bad if they don't have Shadow Essence, because most of their cards are removal and they don't want to use it on a 2-mana 4/4.
That's true.
Now, if Millhouse
Pretty
said your
reactive.
minions are free... Okay, Millhouse would be really bad later on, so the earlier you play Millhouse, the better.
You don't want them to be able to free Spellstone into a Millhouse.
For all you know, they could go Spellstone, Spellstone, Eternal Servitude, Eternal Servitude.
No.
I think Serenite Chain Gang has to be the play here. There has to be hand buffs in this, right?
There has to be.
It can't just be good card Paladin.
It can't just be like, we're going to play Knife Juggler and then play things that spawn things. Like, could that be it?
That could be it.
Because they had 2 jugglers. We saw them get removed already.
Well, that's another Shadow Word Horror. Everyone's going to be one thing about Big Priest in this matchup is they have to be mindful about how they use the removals, because you can get to a point where if you use the removals too liberally, you might catch yourself not having any removals for next board state. Especially when this Paladin is not the typical run-of-the-mill Paladin.
Yeah. Spirit Lash maybe not going to be as effective in this matchup. So
I don't think Big Priest runs Spirit Lash anymore. They just really can't afford to. Typically, if they're running their removals, it's going to be Embrace the Shadow Circle of Healing, Pint-Sized Potion, Shadow Word Horror, Psychic Scream, and Dragonfire Potion. Those are the big mass removals. Spirit Lash has kind of fallen at the wayside, unless maybe they might be playing. That's just painful to watch. Iron Beak Owl!
What?
That was painful to watch the bluegill just die like that.
Oh, gross.
Everett,
so
don't be
gross.
upset.
Oh, man.
Did you see what your opponent just did? Don't be upset, Everett.
You can't play anything can happen anymore.
No,
so that
you
bluegill
can't.
just
That bluegill will
gone.
never come back. He's gone forever.
he did.
He watched the sunset. He's gone forever.
Poor sweetheart. Rest in peace.
But
What is this deck?
it's a miracle, is what it is.
It's a miracle that we're seeing it.
And
Cal Poly, I'd
maybe
like
Cal
to thank
Poly was grinding really long and hard, and they started playing this deck in a select matchup, and they went,
This is nuts.
this is nuts. This is great. I've had moments like that before, and I'm going to go to a quick story real quick. The story was at Winter Playoffs, a close friend of mine who has actually been broadcast on the Collegiate Series before, known as the Ninja, and I were testing lineups. And we were testing for the... Did they just dirty rat?
You don't have equality, Cal Poly. Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
back
Okay,
to the story. So we were testing matchups, and one of the things we were testing is when Pirate Warrior and Aggro Shaman were the biggest thing.
Okay.
We were testing if Zulok, when Zulok wasn't even an existing thing, was favored against Pirate Warrior if we put Felguard in it. And we played Felguard Zoo.
Oh.
And at the very last minute, I decided that it wasn't favored and it wasn't worth bringing, and it was one of the best decisions ever.
Is that when you won?
Because that's when I won, and I brought Stan Udachi's Reno Lock, but my partner in crime, the Ninja,
Yeah.
stuck with the Zulok,
Oh.
and let's just say
He didn't win the
things
America's
did not
Championship.
go well for him. But props to him for sticking with the Zulok, and that's what he's known for, is bringing that Zulok at winner. It was one of the funniest things because he was the only player in the entire tournament to bring
Two over
Zoo.
Reno. Dang. Well, with Dry Gulch Jailer, I'm further reaffirming the fact that this has to be hand buff. It has to be.
Yes.
It just has to.
Yes,
It has to.
It has to be. And I am at a loss for words here right now at Cal Poly's ingenuity here. It's really
love
cool. I love it too.
It's awesome.
I'm just curious what they were going for.
It
with
is
this.
so rare that anybody comes up with any new type of deck. But then to bring
Millhouse Manstorm just hit the board.
to bring
In a
this deck
tournament.
when you have so many good Paladin decks. When you could bring Dude Paladin or Murloc
Oh,
Paladin.
there's the Smuggler's Run.
Oh my gosh. I'm in awe.
Did they forget about the Wild Pyro interaction and didn't swing? I wasn't paying attention. I apologize.
Yeah,
'Cause
they didn't swing with it. So
Because
yes.
it didn't look like a lot of things swung.
No, they didn't swing.
This
with
is
anything actually.
This is a tale of terrible tragedy going on for Cal Poly right now.
They don't even res anything with
No!
Spellstone.
Millhouse Mana Storm was just a 2-mana 4/4.
That's insane. Alert your zoo decks.
What's going to be more insane is this Smuggler's Run
I mean, it's good.
onto 2 Doppelgangsters.
Mm.
Oh, what can happen is they can Smuggler's Run, and they can buff up the Doppelgangsters to become like 4/4s and 5/5s, and Everett is forced to Psychic Scream the Doppelgangsters back in the deck, and then they get 6 Doppelgangsters back in the deck that if they draw, it's just 5-mana 2/2s after 5-mana 2/2s. I'm not saying that's good. That's
So
cute.
many Doppelgangsters. And then we have Evolve in our deck. Oh,
Dry
wait.
Gulch Jailer basically was a Doppelgangster because it summons 3 1-mana 2/2s.
Yes.
And
Yes, it does.
Dry Gulch Jailer costs 2 mana.
Yes.
Those Silver Hand Recruits cost 1 mana.
Yes.
That's
That's
5
5 mana.
Dude Paladin confirmed.
Mind blown.
I have
I'm-
0 testing games of this matchup, and I feel my expertise cannot be used here.
I
How many games do you have of this matchup?
It's gonna be a good 0. I've played a lot of Big Priest, and the deck is very strong. I've played no Hand buff Paladin. So,
Curious
question
to see
mark.
what HS replay stats say on this matchup.
It's actually a great question.
They don't have it.
We get the Vicious Syndicate meta report, the meta reaper.
Currently, hand buff Paladin is tier 1.
I mean, maybe it is. At least if Cal Poly loses this game, they might bring this deck back out. Yep, there's Grime Street Enforcer.
Oh my, this is just Grime Street Enforcer plus Divine Favor.
Jace. That's Nutter Butters.
That is Nutter Butters. This is... I'm trying to figure out what Cal Poly... Like, what was going through Cal Poly's head when they decided to submit this? They had to have thought of some kind of matchup.
Chili Champion. This is totally a Kibler deck. Okay. 100%. We got some Kibler fans at Cal Poly.
I'm in love with this deck right now. You might see me at HCT Bangkok or HCT
EGLX in
Oslo or
Toronto.
EGLX with this deck in my lineup.
We got this. We got Cthulhu Druid. And Cthulhu Priest.
Look at this Smuggler's
This is
Run.
insane! They're still dead, but this is insane!
They're not dead yet. They're pretty dead. They can go Smuggler's Run, Doppelgangster for 5/5s. Or they can go Grim Street Informant and just Doppelgangster for 4/4s. I think it doesn't make a difference. I kind of want to see Grim Street Informant and Doppelgangster for 4/4s.
It's that. You can play the Chillblade Champion too. You don't have to.
Grim Street Informant
can.
definitely needs to hit the board this turn. I think a Doppelgangster definitely needs to hit the board.
Okay.
The question is whether Smuggler's Run needs to be played or not. I don't think Smuggler's Run needs to be played because 2 4/4s are actually harder to answer.
A 5/5 and 3
Then
4/4s is going to be better than 3 5/5s.
5/5s.
Yeah. And Dragon Fire Potion blows everything up anyway, but Cal Poly just has stuff.
But if they
So
Dragon
gotta play
Fire, they
their
damage
stuff.
their own board
Yeah.
to where these Choblade will clear it up.
And then we have Spellstone, Edge Shadow Visions, Edge Shadow Essence. There's no chance that Cal Poly's winning this game, but I am
You
really
don't
interested to
know
see what
that.
they've got.
You don't know that.
A 0.0% chance.
I'm going to give it a 0.1.
Okay, that's fair. Considering we don't actually know what's in the deck.
For all you know, Cal Poly could top deck a Yogg-Saron. Were you expecting them
could.
to have Doppelgangster Murloc Paladin? No, you weren't. So you
It's
never
not
know.
Murloc Paladin, though. It's just Bluegill.
Okay, well, one Murloc means it's Murloc. I'm just playing.
That's fair. That's fair.
This...
I'm just playing Hand Buff Paladin.
I want to see this full deck list, so I really hope this game gets played out to its maximum capacity. They're even going to take value trades.
I mean, why not?
They... I guess why not?
I mean, we could dome them for 23 this turn.
Or we can go the 4/4 Doppelgangsters. They decide to go for 10 damage, Everett. And both of those Spellstones are going to be probably what puts Everett over the edge in this matchup. And the fact that Yasiraj has not died yet is also very important. But it did pull Barnes.
Valenier.
Valenier on
Valenier.
Doppelgangster.
That is sick. +4/+2 onto your Doppelgangsters.
And you get it back.
Yeah.
And they all have it.
3/6/4 Doppel.
So if one of
base.
them dies, you would get the Valenier equipped, and you could use the Valenier. And then if one of the other ones died, you get the Valenier equipped. Correct?
I don't actually know.
Because I believe they all have the attachment. They all have the death rattle.
I believe they're all identical. I'm not sure how that works, actually.
Because it summons copies of the minion.
So you get the Valenier effect.
Or it could just
3
go onto
times
the
over.
Choblade, and the Choblade could clean up potentially the Yasiraj. Yasiraj.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I don't think Cal Poly is going to have enough time to do all of that.
There's 21 damage for Everett with Death and Decay in hand next turn.
So maybe Cal Poly was hoping to get this Paladin into the Mage?
Yeah.
Maybe?
No. No, I don't think so. You got
don't
no
think
life
so?
gain. There's not enough.
You
I
have
mean, you
Chillblade
have Dirty
Champion.
Rats. You have Dirty Rats. You have Chillblade Champion.
What do you
okay.
mean you don't have life
Maybe it's
gain?
not.
You have a lot of life.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm trying to think, like, does this go well into Priest? That is not Big Priest?
No.
Maybe?
As we can see, no.
They're like, you know what's great? Duskbreaker. But you know what Duskbreaker can't do? Deal 4 damage.
We smart.
So, yeah, maybe. Maybe this just beats Spiteful Priest.
I don't know what it beats, but Cal Poly
Does it beat
thinks it
Combo
beats
Priest?
something. So the question is, what did Cal Poly bring this deck
This
for?
doesn't bring Warlock because they banned Warlock.
Yes.
This
They-
probably beats Jade Druid.
Yeah, it probably beats Jade Druid.
Probably beats Jade Druid. Maybe it beats Mage. Maybe it's okay against other Paladins, actually. Now
I was
that you
thinking
think
that because
about
it does run cards like Stonehill Defender.
But you don't.
Or not Stonehill Defender, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Serenite Chain Gang.
The Call to Arms from this Paladin deck are probably just going to be stronger than the Call to Arms from other aggressive Paladin decks. But they managed to run into a full control lineup from Everett.
But in theory, it should be fairly decent against the full control lineups, right? Because it has so much value.
I mean, yeah. Like, in theory, it makes sense. And you can kind of see what the good matchups are supposed to be. I don't think that that was a good evidence of in practice what the deck is actually intended to do. But the pieces are starting to come together in my head. I'm working out the puzzle. I got the corners and some of the side pieces, and we're starting to fit the middles together.
I mean,
And I'm getting
sometimes Call to Arms happens and you get 2 Dirty Rats and a Millhouse Mana Storm.
Yeah. What
So,
aggressive paladin can actually beat that? Not
many. There was
many.
Wild I'm a little curious on the Wild Pyromancer.
So they're definitely running Pyro Equality.
Because
But why?
Pyromancer is really good with Equality.
Uh-huh.
And that's obviously the combination you want to play it for. It's also
Yes.
good against Dude Paladin, but you're going Pyro with your very
Smuggler's
limited amount of
Run?
spells. You have very limited amount of spells, so it's interesting to see what the Pyro is actually doing in there.
They had 2 Knife Jugglers as well. So Pyromancers, Loot Hoarders, Knife Jugglers, Bluegill Warriors, Dirty
Millhouse
Rats,
Mana
Millhouse
Storm, Dirty
Mana Storm.
Rats.
That's a lot
Was there any
of
more?
2-drops.
Oh, Dry Gulch Jailers.
Dry Gulch Jailers. Okay. They're running like 10 2-drops in that deck.
2-drop Paladin.
That is okay, but if you're so heavy on 2-drops, then you're also really watering down your Call to Arms pulls.
Yes.
When you need a Knife Juggler for knives, less chance that you're going to get it. When you need
a
Dirty Rats
Rat
for taunts, they had Righteous
less chance to
Protectors
get
too,
it.
I think.
They did. They did have
They had
Righteous
Righteous
Protectors. When you need a Millhouse Mana Storm to have a 4/4 on the board.
I don't know, Jay.
I want to see it again.
I do.
I
wanna see it
really
again.
hope they queued up again, and that was the team that also changed the room. So maybe they changed the room on the deck select screen.
Like, no, you picked the wrong Paladin! And then we'd be looking at some sticky situations.
It is cool though to see that kind of ingenuity coming from a team. So they in their testing they saw something that they thought, ooh, we want to bring this.
Yeah.
And with that, they said, you know, this is a good deck. We're confident with it. We have a reason to bring it, whether it be we're comfortable with it, we like it in this matchup. Maybe they just think it's a fun deck and they wanted to show it off a stream. There are reasons for them bringing this deck, and it props to them for bringing it. You know, they created something new that's not in the meta.
They're
and
doing something
they
that
are
most
bringing
people
it
wouldn't
back
do.
out against the Control Mage. They're saying we are going to get a win with this Paladin. We are going to show the world what it's made of, and Smuggler's Run is a good way to start that off with.
Holy cannoli. So Everett has brought a full control lineup here, banning away Warlock and trying to prey on aggressive decks with the Paladin, the Big Priest, and the Mage. And Cal Poly has just sort of gone off the
Everett
rails
was
a little
hard
bit.
targeting the hand buff Paladin with this lineup.
Honestly, though, yeah. But actually, yeah. Oh, baby. The double Dragon's Fury Keep
They kept
from
both
Everett.
as well.
Yeah, that's solid. That's solid and a half.
That is
Heckin' solid.
that is very.
I feel so bad for Cal Poly. It just...
They're going to be fine. They're going to win
hard.
this game. I have confidence in them.
This is going to be so tough. Dragons, Furies, Flame Strikes, Meteors, Blizzards.
Flame Strike doesn't kill 5/5 doppelgangsters, Cora.
But it kills 4/4 doppelgangsters, Jay.
Well, we don't play them till they're 5/5s. That's a 3/3 knife juggler.
Put this apple on your head. Knife juggler used to be 3/2.
Yes,
This
that
knife
was a
juggler
lie.
was never nerfed.
I
It was, in
remember
fact,
playing
buffed.
casually when knife juggler was a 3/2, and that card was just phenomenal. Now it's a 3/3.
Yeah. As a 2/2, it's still real good.
So I would like to see them go for the loot hoarder just to put as much pressure on as possible before AoEs can come up. But Cal Poly just going to go ahead and opt and say, you know what, we want to draw as many cards as possible.
Ooh.
And increase our options for the future turns. I don't know if Dirty Rat is good or bad against hand buff Paladin. I want to assume it's pretty good for the reason that if you see a Dry Gulch Jailer, that's a good hit. They know Doppelgangsters in the list. That's a good hit. So Chain Gang is a good hit. I think the worst hit is probably that Grim Street Enforcer.
Yeah.
But even then, you can Dirty Rat it out and then answer it on the same exact turn.
Second Divine Favor for Cal Poly, so they just need to get
Uh-oh.
cards out of their hand.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. They were looking at Dirty Rat something. They were thinking about something when they were hovering over that Dirty Rat.
It's a 1/3 Alexstrasza. They're thinking Dirty Rat Loot Hoarder this turn instead of Star Knight, and then play the Grime Street and then go into Doppelgangster plus something and then Star Knight later on.
What are the hits in this deck, right? So there's potentially Medivh. There's Alexstrasza. There's Dirty Rats. There's Doomsayers. Tar Creepers.
If there's
Plated
Beetles, do you think there's N'Zoth in this deck as well?
That is very true. So there is the N'Zoth engine.
And maybe Syndragosa.
Syndragosa, Curator, Raven Familiar.
Yep.
I would say most of the hits aren't that bad, but I think they want to have a board first before they try and do it. Because if they pull out something like an Alexstrasza now, then it's going to look really dangerous for Cal Poly as they won't have such a clean way to answer it. And yes, it is going to be the N'Zoth build with the Syndragosa. Plated Beetle was a very important indication of that you picked up on.
It's a fun deck. It's really strong.
It is fun, and it's pretty good against the aggro decks, but it's falling out of favor now for the reason that people are not bringing aggro as much as possible. And there we go. I think that was the worst Dirty Rat hit.
Yeah. Easy.
Coming out from Everett. It's a little unfortunate there. But back on the topic of this Mage deck, it was good. It was brought by almost everyone in, I believe, the Copa America Finals, and it was brought by a lot of players for HCT Germany.
HCT Sydney had a little bit of representation
HCT
recently.
Sydney has but it's falling out of favor for the reason that Seeker Mage is gaining popularity. OTK Paladin is gaining popularity.
Yeah.
Along with that, there are greedier decks like Quest Rogue is gaining popularity, Kingsbane Rogue is gaining popularity. All of these decks are gaining popularity for the reason that this Mage deck was brought in, because this Mage deck is fairly weak against those.
The meta is actually evolving quite significantly right now. Granted, it's taken its sweet time, but we are seeing a good amount of new decks emerging in the competitive sphere. Cal Poly just ripping that Divine Favor this turn, wanting as many minions in hand as possible because they're guaranteed the Grime Street Enforcer buff this turn.
Definitely smart recognition from Cal Poly, trying to get as many minions in hand as possible to capitalize on that Dirty Rat into the Grime Street Enforcer. This is going to be a real slugfest.
Slobber knocker.
Slobber knocker. Because Everett's not going to want to use his AoE here, but that Grime Street Enforcer is going to sit around for another turn if they don't use it here.
That's nasty.
But then they just play their 9 minion hand. Oh, I'm sorry, 8 minion hand of all +1/+1. Thought Prince Caliseth was good. That Prince is looking better.
Prince Grime Street Enforcer.
Prince Grime Street Enforcer. And it's going to be interesting to see what Everett goes for here. They could opt to ping the Grime Street Enforcer, just kind of get it down into a range of a ping next turn because, you know, they don't really want to commit to the Dragon's Fury yet. But this Grime Street Enforcer is going to get another card. And they just drew Millhouse Mana Storm. They hovered over it and just immediately started laughing.
I don't know that we're playing that this turn. But you know what?
Do you think Millhouse Mana Storm is a good card against the Spell Mage?
Big Spell Mage?
Big Spell Mage.
You know, I've hated other things more. Like...
I mean, they're clearing your board with one spell anyway. Might as well give it to them for free.
Do you have big spells in your Big Spell Mage hand? Let's find out. They're going to find out. Yes.
How is Everett unfazed by this?
He's no emotions.
How is
stone.
he unfazed?
He's a rock. He's an island.
How can you look at that Millhouse Mana Storm and not burst into tears?
I would cry. I would
cry right now.
I'm crying. Happy tears. Confused tears. Tears of questions unanswered.
Millhouse forever.
Millhouse forever.
Millhouse forever. Might as well play the high spot.
Hashtag
while we're at
Millhouse
it.
strong.
Wait. Millhouse plays around Arcane Artificer. Artificer. By making sure that you can't gain armor from the spells. Whoa! My mind is blown.
You're so right. We don't have Loatheb. Okay, no, hear me out. We don't have Loatheb anymore. Nerubian Unraveler is lame. Millhouse Mana Storm is so next level, and they've figured it out.
Oh God,
geniuses!
That whole
all
board
of
is
them.
+2. That whole hand is +2/+2.
I mean, that's gross. Everett only has one more Dragon's Fury.
But if they play the Tri-Gulch Jailer and their board gets cleared, they're gonna mill a card.
Okay, but this entire hand is dirty from Cal Poly. They have so much reload, and Everett only has one more Dragon's Fury. Like, this is not... this is not... I mean, this is a good situation for Cal Poly, I guess.
I think Cal Poly might win this game.
I think they might.
If they had played the Dry Gulch Jailer, that Cold Line Oracle would have done a number.
Who cares? You have two double buff doppelgangsters in your hand.
I think Cal Poly wins this one with this deck, which is kind of crazy to think about, but they have so much reload. Their minions are so large that... What is Everett supposed to do?
Big Spell
Everett
Mage
has
doesn't
to hope
have
that
enough
their
big
minions
spells.
get in there. That is...
Okay.
Okay, I'm listening.
Frozen Champions are going to give us Deathwing and Baron Geddon. No, that's not good enough.
No, Baron Geddon does nothing with your... Baron Geddon just takes off the original buff added by the Grim Street Enforcer. I love this deck. It's actually funny though, because I wonder if there's situations where Cal Poly
No.
Marin the Fox into the Chalice that gives a couple of cards and they get Flame Strike.
That's actually pretty sick.
But they have to be careful not to play it when the board's full.
Be careful not to die. That doesn't...
Skulking
that
Dice
gets
rid of Smuggler's Run.
This
matchup is just ludicrous.
Probably Dragon's Fury turn?
You have to. You probably want a Dragon's Fury.
Do we want an Arcane?
You need to bump first, and then you Dragon's Fury. And then you want a Cold Light Oracle, not only to mill cards, but also to try and draw your AoEs this turn.
So you mill 2 cards off the draw from Cal Poly?
I believe so.
Everett gets to keep Syndragosa. Never mind. Wait, what the hell am I talking about? 7 mana.
It's alright.
Not 4 damage. Hey, Cenarius. That's pretty cool.
Iron Beak Owl. Oh, no. Not Grim Street Enforcer. Just play a 4/4 Doppelgangster. There might be some games where Cal Poly just buffed Bluegill Warrior, and Chillblade Crusaders.
And just go face.
And just went face for so much. They can do that this turn, can't they? They can just play Chillblade Crusader and
Champion.
go face.
Chillblade Champion.
Is it Champion? Crusader sounds cooler.
I think it's Champion.
I know it's Champion, but Crusader sounds cooler.
It does.
It's Chillblade buff card.
Yes. It's the Chargy Paladin minion that people forget.
Chargy
exists.
Paladin minion. Chillblade Chargy
Chargy.
Paladin minion. And, I mean, Everett has no answer for this board right now. They have a whole lot
of minions.
I think they just play Jaina and hope to draw an answer next turn.
Yeah.
Because they do have the block up, and even with the block, they don't technically have a proc. We can see with the Chillblade, I believe that is a proc.
I mean, they've got Flame Strike outs. They've got Meteor would be nice off the top. They could find Water Elemental from it. 4, 8, 12, 14 on board, 16 damage, or 16 life, but Cal Poly has the Chillblade. They have Valenier, so yes, they have multiple ways to pop.
Oh, gosh. Well, they definitely need to proc this turn.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what else should they do?
I think the best they can pop at
Okay,
is
here's another thing.
2.
I believe Cal Poly might actually win this one if Everett does not draw some kind of AoE. But what? All right, hear me out. What is Cal Poly's other deck? If they brought this one,
they have a mage. They have the.
We saw the mage. It was Secret Mage with
They have
double
Secret
AI.
Mhm.
So what is
You can't silence lifesteal. Oh jeez.
Oh jeez.
Oh jeez.
Oh jeez, Cal Poly.
You can silence the freeze effect, but you cannot silence lifesteal.
Maybe they just wanted to silence the freeze effect though, because then Valenier can hit face twice. That's probably what they were thinking. I mean, they proc the block with this anyways.
Yes.
So that's definitely what they were thinking.
Slight sequencing error. They could have popped the block at 3.
Yeah, a little bit of a sequencing error. They could have blocked it at 3. It probably matters a little bit, but in this scenario, I don't think it's going to matter because
they can go to 18, 4, 8, 12, 14, 15,
they
19.
They have to Alexstrasza. They missed that 1 damage for the BM because they knew they had to Alexstrasza.
Hot diggity darn. They have done it.
Cal Poly has won with the hand buff Paladin. I want to know what their priest is.
Yes. It's probably just going to be...
I hope it's Big Priest with some wacky stuff.
Like what?
Like Violet Worm.
Wait, that's awesome.
You play, this was the old tech against Raza Priest. You would play Violet Worm on your Big Priest. You get it off, you would get it off of Shadow Essence.
Yeah.
You would let it die, and you would Psychic Screen the 1/1s into the Raza Priest deck.
Oh, that's gross. I mean, Violet Worm's awesome in Arena.
And Everett is just trying to find a way to stay alive. And does this do it?
Go to 11? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 on board? Nah.
No,
There's no way to live.
Everett said, peace out. You can have your win with hand buff Paladin.
Kudos to Everett for playing that out.
Look, Cal Poly is so excited.
So happy. Oh my gosh. Incredible. Cal Poly has managed to get a win with a Paladin deck, the likes of which I have never seen in competitive play, and very well may never see again. That's pretty fun.
That was really fun. It was actually kind of cool to see them get the win for that. And that might have been the reason they brought it, was for those control decks, or maybe necessarily control mage. However, I think Everett was just kind of missing out on their AoEs, which kind of helped Cal Poly take that victory after they had played Doppelgangster after Doppelgangster. But that gives you just a warm feeling inside of your heart to see that win.
They looked so happy.
They were so happy.
Genuinely happy. It's awesome.
Another crazy thing is, they still might take this. Cal
It's
Poly has access
possible.
to the Secret Mage, which is typically favored against Control and Big Mage because they have no way to answer Counterspell. But we haven't seen this Priest yet. It might be a big Priest, and unless the Control Mage player plays it exceptionally well and optimal and just everything, a lot of things have to go their way.
Hard.
It is a hard matchup. This is a very hard matchup for Control Mage to win. So we haven't seen what the Priest is yet, but it could be a big Priest. It could be an Inner Fire Priest. It could be a Spiteful Priest.
Could be hand buff priest.
Could be, could be the Priest of likes we have never seen before.
Kudos to Cal Poly for
That was awesome.
doing something that most teams, most players, period,
I'd
would
never do it.
ever do.
I know I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I am very much of the thought that bring the best decks, play them well.
Yes.
Probably going to be the best shot that you have.
I agree.
But-
That is a mentality of a lot of professional Hearthstone players. Is even they don't even like to go for hard target strategies, where
too
they
risky.
bring things like Quest Druid and Quest Rogue and Quest Mage and insert Quest here deck. They say, you know what? These are the best decks. Even if I don't play them optimally, I'm bringing them and I'm winning.
They're the best
Cal
for the
Poly,
reason that they are the best.
they said no, we're bringing hand buff Paladin. So
They-
props to them for that win. That was glorious.
I mean, got to make it very clear. These are college students first and
Yes.
foremost. They're competing for scholarship prize money. They play Hearthstone, and to be fair, the vast majority of them play at a very reasonably high level.
Yes.
You look at them and you say, okay, I can see potentially this person making a run for a competitive position in the Hearthstone scene. So they'll bring some weird stuff, but it's very rarely new stuff. This is something that I have seen maybe on Brian Kibler's stream, and that's about it. This is not something I've ever seen in competitive play, and it has picked up a win. More importantly for Cal Poly, it's memorable.
Yes.
People are going to remember this. I still remember the full Finja 5 lineup from 2 seasons ago that I got to cast. And Cal Poly has brought Handbuff Paladin. That's going to stick out for me.
I'm a Cal Poly fan now. And if you're not a Cal Poly fan, you're probably the same kind of people that put pineapple on their pizza. Are you a
That
Cal
was-
Poly fan?
That was 2 series ago, Jay. Can we move past it?
This is not a Murloc.
Can we move? They can't even see
I
it.
know they can't.
You drew 1, 2.
I did not draw that one.
It's a fish with legs, okay?
Fishies
am not
with legs
an
are not Murloc
artist.
Paladins.
I'm not an artist. I admit it. Okay?
Sounds like someone who likes pineapple on pizza would say.
I do. I like pineapple on pizza. I like Handbuff Paladin. I like fish with stupid
Okay, I like
legs.
Handbuff Paladin too. We can agree on that. We can agree that Cal
One
Poly,
thing
we're both
is
Cal
good
Poly
enough,
fans
I
now.
guess.
And I'm very interested to see what their priest is. I really
Oh,
hope
yeah.
it's something unique. But we did see the mage earlier. It was that secret mage. So we're going into the game, and it is going to be Spiteful Priest versus this big spell control. Nizoth.
All right, so the fun is behind us.
Well, this is still fun. You never know what Grand Archivist wants to do. Sometimes he wants to go free from Amber into a Nosdormu.
Ooh, that's fun. Sometimes he wants to free from Amber into Grand Archivist.
Sometimes Spiteful Summoner wants to get free from Amber and summon an Archivist into free from Amber to get an Archivist.
That's fun.
Is someone injured?
And then sometimes Mage wants to clear the board every turn.
And sometimes Mage doesn't want to let the priest play anything
Or have fun.
or have fun. I like this Mage deck. It's cool. Standard Big Spell Mage was a little bit at the top end for me, but Nizoth, it's a clear, concise win condition,
It is.
and I like that.
And a lot of times when looking at a deck, you have to ask yourself, what is the win condition? What is the goal of the deck? And it's okay to have a deck that doesn't necessarily have a clear one. And what I mean by that is like something like Fatigue Warrior, where your goal isn't to necessarily play a big game-ending threat at the end of the game, or snowball the game out of control, but it's to get rid of all of your opponent's resources. And that's typically what the first kind of big spell mage was. Now, they did have threats in the form of Alex Straza, Dragon Caller Alana,
Okay.
Medivh.
I have found Cal Poly Slo's lists
Oh.
from last week from a mildly reliable source.
Mildly reliable, I like it.
So this priest has a Harrison Jones, 2 Cabal Song Stealers, a Skulking Geist, or at least it did last week.
Okay.
The Paladin, we saw pretty much everything in it except for Leroy Jenkins, which makes sense.
Leroy Jenkins.
They had
I think
Q
Leroy
Block.
Jenkins is the only one we did not see in that deck.
They had Q Block, and then they have the Secret Mage. So really, the Paladin is the only off-the-wall choice that they have brought.
But they had
But
to
it
have had
was
some kind
enough.
of testing somewhere where they thought that Paladin was great. But I think the Paladin needs to be put in the past, and we need to focus on this game at hand right here.
That is fair.
And it looks as if Cal Poly has kind of snowballed a little bit out of control with their minions. I mean, Shadow Ascendant is really hard for a lot of control decks to answer, and that is one of the reasons it's found play in Inner Fire Priest and also Inner Fire Priest and also the Spiteful Priest. And I think Everett, he was nodding his head there because I think he realized he wants to Dragon's Fury next turn, and he pinged face. Now, sometimes Dragon's Fury can get a 5/4/3.
Yep.
And sometimes it's more beneficial to ping the Twilight Drake because it would force out a heal on top of, if you know you're going to Dragon's Fury, you want to reduce the health on the highest cost minion as possible to guarantee that the entire board dies. Because what happens if Everett rolls his Dragon's Fury and it gets another Dragon's Fury? Well, that Twilight Drake's still around, and the Twilight Drake's going to do some damage.
Yeah. And I can definitely see how he would want to avoid pinging minions to avoid Cal Poly being able to heal a minion and draw a card. But with the Dirty Red on the board anyway, Cal Poly will always guarantee a card draw.
And if the goal was to Dragon's Fury next turn while playing Dirty Rat to try and get whatever cards out of Cal Poly's hand as soon as possible, then it just makes sense to put damage onto, say, the largest minion rather than pinging face, because pinging face is most likely never going to matter. So Dragon's Fury has to be played here, and sometimes this rolls 3 and whiffs and 8 damage. Everett just praying, and it was good enough. Ends up clearing the Twilight Drake.
Perfect. That's going to be a full clear for Everett. And now he's sitting at a low life total, only 13, but we have Flame Strike, we have Blizzard, we have Meteor. Consistent freeze or clear moving forward. So that was a key turn. If that had failed, I believe he would just lose the game.
I think so as well. I don't know if it would have been a clear loss, but it definitely would have been one of those scenarios where, you know, Everett's going to have to optimize lines and make sure that nothing ever hits the face for the rest of the game, because 7 damage would have been taken. They would have been gone down to 6, and that just makes it hard. And now even this is just a fair bit amount of pressure. Cal Poly is going to opt to put more pressure on the board rather than playing the operative, and I like it, saying, hey, look, in this version of Control Mage, there is less of a chance that they have the AoE, because they are running greedier cards like N'Zoth, Curator. So a lot of times it's better to go for an approach of, I'm going to put as much pressure on as possible in order to try and end this game as early as possible. And I almost wouldn't mind the Beetle, just to play the Beetle and get more pressure on board.
I also don't mind Polymorph, because you know that Everett is running a N'Zoth variant. So Polymorph shuts down Death Rattles. You don't have a lot of single target removal anyway.
Yes. So with Polymorph being taken, the devil's advocate to Polymorph is that if you're worried about the Death Rattle minions, you have cards like Mind Control in order to answer them. Although they do come down a bit later, a lot of times when you're answering a Death Rattle minion, you're going to want to take it anyways.
That's a good point.
So definitely something to weigh out and consider. whether or not it was more optimal just to, play an extra minion this turn. I mean, that minion pushes maybe 2 damage face in the next turn. Maybe it makes Everett play into the pressure that's being presented. I don't think it would have mattered in, say, this select scenario. Maybe Cal Poly gets an easier Dustbreaker if they have it, but that is a Grand Archivist on 8.
That is sweet.
Let it rip.
1 Mind Control, 2 Free from Amber in the deck.
Mind Control's kind of bad here. You do not want that. Maybe they'll consider holding on to it for the reason that they don't Mind Control it, but I don't think they're getting through this Tar Creeper without playing it. And don't worry, Cal Poly always gets the Free from Amber here.
66% of the time, they always get Free from Amber.
Yeah. And Free from Amber 100% of the time summons Nosdormu. I don't feel like Grand Archivist does his job properly unless he summons a Nosdormu from Free from Amber.
He's definitely given me some wacky stuff.
I remember playing a game where I was so far. Oh, the Mind Control. I was so far ahead on board in the Spiteful Priest Mirror that the only out was Spiteful into Real 8, into Grand Archivist, into Mind Control. And it happened. Yeah, I got sad.
Jaina on 8.
And
That
Jaina is just
phenomenal.
such a good card.
Cal Poly has the Polymorph. They could Polymorph the Water Elemental, run in the Sheep to prevent Everett from generating more Water Elementals.
And
at
I kind of
least
like that.
on board.
I like that a lot for the reason that you cannot let Everett get away with just generating them. And there's
Bookworm's great.
Nosdormu.
Bookworm.
The issue with Bookworm is you still leave up the Sheep. So you might just want to go with
You can run in the Sheep first.
But then you give them life.
Yeah.
It's a hard call. Maybe it's not so bad to let them ping the Sheep for the reason that you have so much pressure here that if they're pinging the Sheep, it's
like, meh.
it's like useless. So I don't mind this either. The Bookworm was really good. And that 610 is going to be good as well.
Name that card.
Eldritch Horror.
Good job. Yeah. Aim in a 610. Vanilla.
You only know that because you play Arena.
Yes. Fact.
And playing the Nether Spite is going to allow a Water Elemental to come out. That's going to be important from Everett, is just trying to make a Water Elemental each turn. And
just whittle down the board.
Exactly.
That's all he's got to do.
Oh, there is a Harrison Jones in this Spiteful Priest. It's interesting to see that with a Warlock ban.
Yeah.
Typically, Harrison Jones is ran to get rid of that pesky Skull of Manari that everyone complains about having on turn 5 or coining it out. Because that card is literally bonkers with the current Q block variation. So the fact that they're running it has to be a nod to either Paladin, maybe Rogue to an extent.
Maybe Mage.
Maybe Mage. But those are the only things I can really think of. I think Mage is probably one of the more important ones.
As far as tech choices go, Harrison Jones is not my favorite right now. But they're running Silence as well. They have 2 Cabal Songstealers and the Harrison Jones in this build. So it's just reasonably teched for... Well, I mean, honestly, that would speak to me still Warlock.
Nosdormu, please.
It's gonna be Gruul. I like Gruul.
Gruul is definitely an interesting card. Every time you get it off of a Spiteful effect, it's kind of bonkers.
It's insane.
But you would never play that in any of your decks.
No.
But I remember getting a Spiteful Summoner a lot of the times, and then just saying, I can't answer this. It just keeps growing and growing. It's like worse than the big green men. It's a big purple beast that just keeps growing.
Everett's sitting at a comfortable life total, but this is 16 unanswerable damage on board. Can start picking it apart next turn, but for now, Everett's going to be taking a good chunk of their life.
And it's going to be interesting to see how Cal Poly tends to navigate these upcoming turns, because they want to get rid of that Arcane Artificer, and on top of that, they want to push as much damage as possible, maybe even clear up the Water Elemental, play around any kind of AoEs that they can. It's going to be very hard for Cal Poly in this spot, because, you know, they don't have Free from Ambers anymore. They have they don't have Mind Control anymore because they casted it with Grand Archivist.
Yes, and then they played one on Water Elemental.
Exactly.
And at the same time, they need to make trades so that Everett cannot easily generate more Water Elementals, and those are often going to be suboptimal trades.
Are there any Death Rattles that have died for Cal Poly? I don't believe so. So N'Zoth is kind of a dead card. Raven Familiar doesn't draw anything because they've already cast anything, so I guess
Plated Beetle.
Plated Beetle as a River Crocodilus.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes all you need is a good River Croc.
I like a good River Croc.
Ooh.
But see, now we're not healing the Water Elemental, so Everett gets another Water Elemental. We're not killing the Water Elemental either.
I think Cal Poly was just on the plan of, you know, if they want to ping the 3-1, they can. Other than that, I'm just going to try and do my best to push as much damage as possible. And this is just not looking good for Cal Poly right now. I don't think there's much that they can do.
As
much
as I...
Dustbreaker, then play Cobalt Scalebane, but it's not really doing
Polymorph
much.
and Duskbreaker.
Polymorph, Dustbreaker, Beetle, I guess, is a line of play. But eventually it's going to reach a point where they're just going to run out of stuff to do. And Everett's just going to play Curator, draw out Alex and maybe Centrigosa, and then just play big threats while constantly generating Water Elementals.
As much as I would have loved to interview Cal Poly and get their thoughts on this lineup, on that Paladin in particular, I think that Everett's one-man band is going to get this job done.
I think he is too, and I would have loved to have heard Cal Poly's rationale as well.
Yeah.
But it's just gonna be a mystery. We're gonna have to live our lives wondering. Endless nights, sleeping, looking up at the ceiling.
These are the unanswerable questions. How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll Center of a Tootsie Pop? Why did Cal Poly Slo bring Hen Buff Paladin?
How many buffs does it take?
The world may never know.
To get a Goblet Gangster to 5/5, and the answer is 3.
The answer is definitively 3. Well done.
It was 3 in the commercial too.
1, 2, 3.
Crack.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll Center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
We found out it was 3. So I just don't see what Cal Poly can do here. I mean, Spiteful Summoner is now just a 6-mana 4/4. This is the second game of today that we have seen a Spiteful Summoner read 6-mana 4/4.
Feels bad, man. Fans of the Spiteful Summoner
really bad.
Hate to say that.
How many fans of Spiteful Summoner do you think are out there, though?
12.
Well, that's a very specific number.
Fans. There's a Spiteful Summoner fan club, and there are 12 members.
Are you a part of the Spiteful Summoner fan club?
There may or may not be a newsletter and collectible Spiteful Summoner mailings every month.
Where can I subscribe to such a Spiteful Summoner?
That would be spitefulsummonersfans.com.
Oh, okay.
But you need a Spiteful Summoner-esque username, so start thinking.
Can I be Spiteful and Archivist? Coin Spiteful and Archivist?
That, Amber's on 8.
Amber's on 8.
Nazi 5 ever. You know.
And I think this is just... I think we can see that it's most likely game over.
We're seeing the lines, and Cal Poly just, they don't have the resources. It's
they really
simple
don't.
as that.
Everett's just going to generate Water Elemental after Water Elemental. I mean, maybe this would have been a different game if Everett did not have access to Jaina so early. But, you know, that's one of the strengths of this mage, is just having access to Jaina. And I wouldn't be surprised if I just see Cal Poly call it quits here.
The Death Knights are the most influential cards Hearthstone has had in a very long time.
I would have to agree. Most of the Death Knights have just been extremely influential. We've seen the Priest Death Knight influential. Warlock.
Have we seen
Mage,
any of them that were not
Druid,
viable?
Hunter. I think the least viable one
Even Garrosh
for the
has
longest
played.
time was probably Rogue, Paladin, Warrior. But now Paladin's come to the forefront. Rogue, I would say Rogue is probably the least viable because Rogue never really saw play in any.
There's no archetype that revolves around Valeera.
Yes, and
Where,
the best thing
yeah.
is Kingsbane Rogue now.
Yes.
Is the best thing that Valeera has fit into. But even with that, that's been the first one. Uther, the Paladin one, has been kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
It's been on and off, but at least with the emergence of this OTK Paladin,
You just put him in any control list. He's just still good enough in
Yes.
most situations. Yeah. Individually, incredibly strong additions to the game. Everett going to just continue to chip away at Cal Poly's resources, and there's nothing that Cal Poly can do here. There's no coming back from this. It's a slow, slow death. But eventually, this game will end in favor of Everett.
Yeah, there's just nothing Cal Poly can do. Even if they draw a dragon and they get this Dustbreaker online, it's not like it's really doing much.
He looks like... Have you ever watched The Goldbergs?
No.
He looks like Adam Goldberg.
I've never watched that.
That is who he looks like. Yeah. It's a TV show on ABC Family. Super funny. It's about a family in the 80s.
Well, let's ask him if he lived in the 80s.
He looks like the main character. Anybody out there, tell me if you watch The Goldbergs. Am I right or am I wrong? He looks like Adam F.
Tweet
Goldberg.
at Team...
Tweet at Team Tesla. He looks like Adam Goldberg. Am I right? He does.
Don't have a question with it. Just he looks like Adam Goldberg. That's all the tweet needs to contain.
100%.
And it's been dragging out for a little bit long. Skulking Geist is not the draw Cal Poly wanted to see. They wanted to see a Deathwing come off the top in miraculous fashion. But that is going to be it. Everett is going to take this. Everett with the slow clap for themselves. Oh my God. Would Goldberg do that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
So he's
But you know what? You never know.
You never know.
You never know. He, one man, single-handedly took down Cal Poly. 3 games to 1. Solid, solid display by Everett. Really controlling high skill level lineup.
Like I said, they took the line of play of saying, you know what? I'm sure his classmates were probably busy with schoolwork or they had maybe exams, just something going on. But, you know, some players, they just perform better by themselves than with a team. You never know. And I'm sure they'd perform just as well with a team. And I did like the lineup. It's a lineup that we've seen a lot of in competitive Hearthstone play. Really good lineup. Really clean play coming out from him, making sure that everything was sequenced optimally. And it was just good to watch. It was a good series to watch.
It's a very consistent lineup. Certainly one that I myself enjoy playing because I really enjoy control decks. I think they're a lot of fun. I play very defensively, and it is a lineup that is very conducive to my play style. Cal Poly, they have so much heart, and I really, really enjoyed getting to watch them play. That Paladin deck was
incredible,
awesome, and they were so genuinely excited. The fact that they had the guts to bring this deck in the first place, and it got a win. It is a deck that is valid. It's viable, and kudos to them. I cannot say that enough. Kudos to them for bringing this deck, for bringing this lineup. They got a little stumped.
It wasn't enough. Everett was your winner in that series,
time.
But it was still good. It was still good. It was a good match to see.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Not nearly as one-sided as it could have been. So it's only week 2. Cal Poly, I believe, are at 0-2 now in their match record.
Ooh.
So they do need to run it back the next 5 weeks. They got to get the next 5 wins in a row. It's possible. I think I would like to see a couple of lineup changes, maybe for that to have the optimal chance of happening.
Just don't touch the hand buff Paladin.
Don't touch it. It's perfect.
But maybe touch it.
Fun.
Maybe you do what you want, Cal Poly. It is definitely it was definitely a sight to see.
Nah, it was a good time. Really, really enjoyable third series of the day. But Everett is going to be the winner there, 3-1 over Cal Poly. That's our third and final set of the day. We had some really, really interesting matchups today. Some interesting deck choices all around. We got to see pretty much every class except for Rogue and Shaman, I believe. So
we did not see any Rogue and
decent
Shaman,
representation
but we
today.
did see Cthulhu come back.
We did. We saw Cthulhu
Although
Druid.
I think Cthulhu was last week.
Yes.
But he did come back.
We didn't actually see Cthulhu in
okay.
either of the cases, except for when he popped up on the side.
He was letting everyone at home know that he was one of the OG.
He's like, you got your
old
Nazas,
gods.
you got your Yashiraj. What about me?
Don't forget about me.
I have disciples.
I was the OG. You were building deck lists around me day 1 of Whispers.
My minions will raffle stomp your barns any day, Yashiraj. We have an interview ready with our winners. It is Everett. Let's get them on the line. How's it going? Congratulations on your victory here, 3-1. How are you feeling right now?
Feeling great. Surprised that I won despite not having my teammates here with me to help out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that must be a little bit tougher for you, not having 2 other minds to sort of bounce ideas off of, but you looked certainly very in control of everything that was happening there. Talk to us a little bit, why this lineup in particular?
I like control decks, and yeah, you're just like control decks.
Man after my own heart. I also like control decks. Makes perfect sense, and you piloted them very well. So kudos to you, man. You nailed it out there. But I do want to get your opinion. So obviously we're not getting a chance to talk to Cal Poly about their reasoning behind their Paladin deck. What did you think running into that specific hand buff Paladin?
I thought it'd be an easy win for all my decks, but unfortunately when I played the mage against it, I just didn't draw a 3rd board clear after having kept 2 in my opening hand, you know?
Yeah.
How they won.
I mean, unfortunately that happens sometimes. It was a bit of a rough go there, but you did end up, of course, pulling it out 3-1. Talk to us a little bit about esports at Everett. Your team, are they the only team at the school, or is there an actual esports program?
As far as I know, there are no other teams from Everett, but yeah, we're just like a group of friends. We're just like, hey, look, there's like a TESPA tournament, and we're all in college, so may as well just go for it.
I love that. There is no reason not to. If you're in college and you play Hearthstone, get some buddies together, get out there, and show the world what you're made of, and you did an excellent job of that today. So congratulations, good luck moving forward, and hopefully your team's there beside you next time.
Thank you, yeah, hopefully.
All right, it certainly is not easy to go in it alone in a team tournament up against 3 minds, but he did such a nice job. Very calm, very collected, very rational. He seemed like he has a very good handle on decks that he's comfortable with, decks that he knows how to play, what they're strong against, and just executed very well.
I'm looking forward to see more from Everett. I'm looking forward to see what, you know, if they were playing that well with him by himself, what does the team dynamic bring into play?
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier, maybe that might be a little bit harmful, but, you know, sometimes it just makes the gameplay better. And so it's going to be really exciting to see how far Everett takes it. I believe they're moving to... What kind of record do you know? Is it 1-1 or is it 2-0?
I believe it would be a 1-1. If
Okay.
Cal Poly was 0-1,
so
then
they still
it would
got a
match
little bit
up
of ways
against...
to go, but, you know, good picking up their first win there.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
making sure they can keep on going.
Have a rough first week, get
Go
that
control.
momentum going, and then start picking up more and more wins. But let's take a look at exactly what went down today. We had, first up, UT Dallas taking it 3-2 over Miami-Dade. Then Texas Tech with a 3-2 victory over SUNY Canton in the Varsity League. And finally, Everett with a 3-1 over Cal Poly Slo. That was such a fun match to get to see that hand buff Paladin. Really a highlight of the tournament thus far for me. And look at what we're going to see tomorrow. It's going to be the East Region, Carnegie Mellon taking on UMass Lowell. Back to the Varsity League for Florida Southern versus Cal. And then the North Region, it's going to be Miami taking on Michigan State. So we've still got 3 more matches coming your way tomorrow. And then, of course, this is only the second of 7 weeks of Hearthstone Collegiate Swiss. So we're going to be back every week for the next 5 weeks after this with 6 matches per week. But we're not done quite yet. we've got one more Twitter question, one more dollar on Flame card back to give away. This one comes to us from PokerOX9. It says, what events will both of you be going to this year to either cast or compete? Ooh.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Competing-wise, I know I will be going to EGLX in 2 weeks. Right after that, I go to HCT Bangkok. And then immediately after that, I go to HCT Oslo.
You're going to be so busy.
I'm going to be dead from travel, but, you know,
Dude.
I can't take too much Hearthstone action. As for casting, I don't currently have anything in the works. But I enjoy casting, so I'll definitely bite at anything I can.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you get more chances to get behind the desk. It's really fun to cast with you. I have things that I cannot talk about. I will be here for every week of the TESPA Swiss, so I will be hosting the desk for the next 5 weeks. We're going to be seeing some different faces in that analyst role, some that you will definitely recognize. So definitely keep tuning in because you're going to have some really phenomenal player analysts coming in. But I will be here for the next 5 weeks, and then I have some stuff in the works after that as well that I'm not at liberty to talk about.
Some little sneaky stuff.
But I know that you will be there for a good amount of them. So, yeah. We'll have to see what happens. Thank you very much for your Twitter questions. And make sure you keep them coming tomorrow, especially. Tweet at Team TESPA. Go on Facebook /Team TESPA. Ask us your questions. Let us know who you're